Good evening, everybody, and welcome. It is a wonderful Monday night. We are back together, and we're ready to talk pricing.
Kind of a semi-popular topic.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't let go. I don't know, 6 months. You probably go 6 months before you ever hear it on Facebook, right? Like somebody brings the topic of how much I should charge. At least 6 months. I mean,
I love
it
six
might be
minutes.
six. Very true. Very true. But no, we're thankful that you get to join us tonight on this wonderful Monday night. Um, hopefully things are going well. I know, like Connecticut people, I've been worried about Rachel and Big Daddy and a few others up there because they've been dealing with some flooding stuff. But not them personally. I don't know that they personally have been, but I know like that area has been
Some of those
getting
pictures are
flooded.
just
So
just incredible.
yeah,
That that once in a 1,000-year rainstorm. It's like, oh my goodness gracious. I mean, that's like a regular weekend for Cubbie, because
Yeah.
but for there it was something. So, guys, what I wanted to do is dig into the pricing, because this is generally the time of the year where we're kind of to the end of our 2024 bookings. We may pick up a show here or there, but we're kind of at the end of that. Now it's in 2025. We probably already have some bookings in the books, but now we have to look ahead. It's like, okay, now do we change our pricing structure? Looking at the different things, the different little variables and what have you, and make a decision to adjust. And we're just going to leave it as adjust, because people will do a variety of different adjustments when they do, or maybe they don't. So that's really I want to kind of dig into tonight is kind of get it, what we've used for barometers in the past when we've decided to up or down, and then kind of do a little kind of looking at what potentially, for someone who's wondering, should they do left, right, up, down, sideways, some things that they could kind of be paying attention to that could help to give them an idea of what they should do when it comes to their prices and such. So, Cubbie, I'm going to actually start with you on this one, because you've got you've got a few shows out there. So,
Yeah.
and I know you've got some things on the books for next year, because that's a big part of your business is that repeat business and referrals. When do you typically, when you make an adjustment for raising prices, when do you typically do that?
When it becomes an easy decision for them to book us, like it was, when it was a hands down, oh my God, yes, we'll do it. In the past, that's what I've done. Now we're to a point now where our pricing is one of the largest, highest in the market, and now I just have to watch myself, because the economy is going to affect some of that. Coming up, like, yeah, we're the highest in the market, and we do have a great reputation, excuse me. And the referrals come in. Those are the referrals are the easy ones. It's the referrals from venues, referrals that never seen us before. Those are tougher ones to close at a higher price point, because they've never seen you before. They have to go off the not reviews or the wedding wire reviews and things of that nature. So to answer your question, I kind of do it looking at it's right about now. But I'm not going to raise my prices, I don't think, for a time being. I've tested the waters with a $200 price increase, um, and I'm with. It's hard to say, because I raise them with, if they've seen us, right, and they go, oh my gosh, I gotta have Seth, or I gotta have Bailey, I gotta have one of my DJs, right?
Yep.
I know it's a lay down, it's easy. Then I know I can go at a higher price. And well, my sister paid, and I gotta get it. That was 3 years ago. The economy, the gas, everything's gone up in 3 years. Name something that hasn't gone up in 3 years. And then they go, yeah, I get it. And they still book with us. So ones, if you have no rapport with, or they're just kind of like, oh, there's from the venue, and you were on a list that for the venue provided them. Those are a little bit of tougher sales. So I want to say competitive. But we're only talking a $200 swing. I mean, honestly, I'm not going up by $700 at all. So that $200 swing is not going to make or break me.
Dan, what about yourself? What when you in the past, when you have raised your rates, what time? When did you usually look at that and decide to either do it or not do it?
So years ago, I used to believe in the philosophy of the new year, a new price, right? Like that was anytime the calendar switched over, that's when I was going to make my decision. And I've referenced this in a couple of shows before, but Dave Tierney, back when he wrote for the paper, it was one of his articles, or maybe it was even a video that he did where he talked about changing the prices, and he talked about after so many yeses in a row, it became okay, it's time to up the price. And so it's kind of funny, like what Cubbie was talking about when it's been like that slam dunk, right? Where it's just like you don't even have to really meet with them. You want to be able to talk with them a little bit more, but they're like, no, we're ready to book you. And it's like, I haven't gotten to kind of interview you, right? Like, and so
Hmm.
that makes you a little bit nervous. But that's kind of started happening to me right now, where I had like a few of them in a row. So I'm like, do I need to make this swing? So it's kind of funny, like this has came up as tonight's topic, and it was something just within this past week that I've been kind of wrestling with because I want to make an increase. I want to go to a new price point. Like Cubbie, I'm one of the highest ones in the area. Um, Let me phrase that. I'm the highest one in our area. The I've got people that come from outside that are higher,
Sure.
but as far as our immediate area, I'm the highest. But so it's like, okay, do I run this risk? And then I've also been toying around with the idea of doing a different price structure, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point in tonight's show, but that would give me an average price point that was higher, even though the price per show might not always be higher, if that makes sense. Um, but that's kind of what's been leading to me is the consecutive yeses and not really having to fight. And again, it's not because, oh, we saw you at such and such show, or we heard about you from our best friend who had you at their wedding. Like it was this coming, relatively coldish call.
So both of you kind of mentioned fall as the time to kind of evaluate, and you have done. Have you ever raised prices like in the spring? Just all of a sudden you got to that point where it's like, hey, I should jump it, or even kind of in that mid season.
So
No.
not spring for fall necessarily, because there for a while I wasn't really getting many of those.
Hmm.
People were looking ahead, but I wasn't waiting. So it's like, I'm in the beginning of 2024. I'm already planning 2025's increase. Not necessarily calendar wise, but knowing like, okay, fall's going to be busy. I'm so far in advance that I can play this game where I can go, I know I'm going to be booked for these days. So if I go a price increase and for some reason it bottoms out, I've got time to kind of back off if I find it doesn't work. So
Sure.
I've done that way, like spring, like not, like thinking about it a year and a half in advance, but not necessarily like early 2024 for late 2024.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, Cubby, most of the time we talk about weddings in this on the shows and such, but you do a lot of trivia things and a lot of corporate events and such. Do those rates change, or those pretty much have been pretty much static for the last number of years, just because of the nature of those shows?
They do go up a little bit, incrementally, and just in if you share with them why they went up from the year previously, or what the people get it. You're a business person, and they just tend to get what the market's doing and what the cost of living is doing, and it's
Hmm.
all over the news, and they realize that if it's an employee of mine, they're not making the full amount, and I share that with them, and they're leaving their family and on the weekends and just spend time with you, so they deserve a little bit more. So yeah, that goes up as well, just as weddings, sure enough.
Sure. So, Cubby, you mentioned that you've taken this. You were looking at a $200 increment over the last number of years, or the last number of increases. What has been the range from the smallest to your largest increase over the last number of years, or has it been consistently a $200 jump each time?
Consistently $200 jump each time.
Okay, how about yourself, Dan?
Uh, I varied in different ones. I've done a $500 jump one time, um, just because I was coming off of a workshop and I was feeling really good, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you know what, we're gonna give this a shot, and it worked. It did because I kind of had the confidence that went with it.
Sure.
Um, but most of the times I do in the one to two range. Um, $100 here, maybe the extra hour will go up by 50, but like mainly the main packages are usually about $100 when I do it.
Okay, we're going to detour just a little bit because Dan, you threw a word out there, and I think this is something we don't want to overlook. You said the word confidence in
Yeah.
that, and I think when Cubbie and you and I have talked about selling and such, and having that. So Dan, I'm going to come back to you on this one, but I want Cubbie kind of talk a little bit about the confidence that you can purvey when you're talking to a client that makes it so that they aren't that they are feeling that you're confident in what you can deliver, so that they're knowing they're buying a legitimate person, a legitimate thing.
I know there was a lot of stuff that was recently in wedding Facebook groups about you're not a wedding planner. But I tell my brides and grooms, I can be your wedding planner. I just can't pick out your flowers and your colors. Let me explain. As far as execution, they will be flawless. And I go through all those details that we cover. And we do cover who the groom is going to walk down the aisle first, second, third, because they might be at a venue who don't have that type of resource. And when they know that we could become that resource, we're doing added value without them realizing it, you know. And so when I share with them that we go over every detail of their big day, and then we have the reviews to back it up, and they can read those reviews, it makes it a lot easier to sell.
For sure, and you're able to demonstrate in a confident manner when you're doing that because you've been there and you've done that. Now,
And
Dan,
I always share what's trending. Like, well, the bouquet garter has been trending out for a lot of years. So what I've seen brides do is give the bouquets to their toss bouquet to their mother. And when you talk about trends and what's trending now, and different things that are happening with the wedding party, doing it as a group versus each couple, and you share with them what's trending, they realize that you are just not doing the same event every weekend, that you have the mobility to be that resource, that you're following what's trending, what's happening. They love the word trending. They love the word trending. If you can tell a bride that this is trending, they're all about it, because they're all about watching what's hot on TikTok and what's hot on Instagram, and if you can tell, well, trending right now is this, they love that, because then they realize that you're following those trends and you're just not just doing the same stuff every weekend.
so Dan, just to kind of when you made the jump, you referred to confidence on that $500. You were able to because you still had the I think you said referred to like you still had the confidence or somehow from that
Mhm.
training.
Yeah.
Give us an explanation of that. Dig into that one just a little bit more, and then I want you to come back the the times when you haven't been that confidence hasn't come through, and how that has made the sales process more difficult.
So part of it was we don't know what we don't know a lot of times, right? Like so Cubby, I'm jealous of you in some aspects because you have other people that you're working with. You have your staff that comes along that has an understanding of what it takes to be good, if not great, right? So you have that feedback option that comes along. And a lot of times, all I have is, guests that are half drunk coming up, yeah, best thing ever. And we feel great about that in the moment until we realize that they're three sheets and they said that to the mannequin in the back corner as well, right? So there is that different kind of feeling. And so um, what happened was I had gone to there's two different ones that really led to the price, and I don't remember which workshop the $500 followed. Um, so one of the increases that I did though followed Ron Roos, Audio Amazing Love Stories. So he does a love story that I took the workshop and learned how to do it in his style, which is very different than the narrative ones that maybe a lot of you are used to. Coming out of that, I made a decision. I was not going to charge for this upsell. If couples wanted it, it was going to be included automatically. But what I did was I increased my cost to kind of meet in the middle. So in other words, if somebody chose it, I kind of took a loss. But if they didn't choose it, however, I won. Right? I came out ahead. And so it gave me the confidence to kind of meet in the middle and make that supply to go, listen, this is why I'm doing this. Like in my mind, I'm now worth this more because I offer this service that is not around.
Hmm.
Nobody else around me was doing something like this. So that was one. Another one was coming off of Marbecca, and I had gone through it with Mark and Rebecca, and doing what I was doing in their workshop, and I was able to learn the things that I was doing well and could do even better. And I learned the stuff that definitely was horrible and needed to be improved. And so I knew coming out of that that I was going to put in the work with what I had learned to be even better.
Hmm.
And so I knew that I was no longer this DJ and MC. I was now this DJ and MC. And so I knew that I was worth charging more than what I had been originally.
So let's jump back before you took those trainings and the times when you would try to raise prices and you maybe didn't have that confidence that you indeed could deliver at a higher rate. How did that struggle go?
It was a struggle. Like I can still remember some of my starting prices, and it was purely ignorance. It really was. Like, and I think sometimes that's what we when we talk about tire kickers or not tire kickers, but low wallers and stuff like that that DJs do. Sometimes it's just pure ignorance, and that was my situation. I can still remember one time talking with this couple and saying, "I don't understand why this other DJ charges this. Like, I think we're very similar. He does this, but I don't. But beyond that, we're relatively the same." It's never in my and I was about half of what he was charging.
Hmm.
And it was just crazy. But like it was, so I was struggling with the idea of, okay, I need to increase, I need to increase, I need to increase. But I knew for the most part I needed to do it because I was just costs were going up, and things were changing as time went. Some of that confidence, though, it didn't take me long of the increases to have the confidence, because for the large portion of my early career I stayed at that price. Maybe I went up by like $50. Maybe if I was lucky I went up by like $50 uh over like years. It was when I went to the expos and I learned, hey, there's people that do this for a living.
Hmm.
There's people that and this is the prices that they're charging. And you know, you can do that. That I was like, okay, so let's test the waters and go a little bit more. And then that kind of built a little bit of confidence, but it really wasn't until the workshops that I really kind of was like, bring it on. Let's go.
Hmm. I think that very first convention, within the first couple of years of the early conventions, that was probably the biggest change for me because it was always looking at the contracts. It was the $50 a year just because, and then you would end up at times almost feel like you're apologizing when you're trying to sell the show. So it
Yeah.
almost it became, if people saw us and they were like, oh no, they want, so yeah, referrals worked back then also. But to get a new person in there, it always felt like I was apologizing while putting, I'm going to write a number down and I'm just so sorry. Here it is. That's what it felt like. And it was really difficult because that's not the way you make sales. You never make successful sales that way. I mean, you will make sales that way because there's going to be someone who will buy, someone who either thinks that you're way underpriced because of what you are, or they feel sorry for you, whatever it is. A pity payment is still a payment. It may not be a great one, but I mean, it is what it is. But that confidence that when you've been there, done that, you've put in the work and such, changes the dynamics so incredibly with
I
that.
would encourage anybody who is kind of thinking about that to just spend some time, whether it's watching a seminar, listening to a seminar that you recorded, if you went to a show, to kind of put yourself back in that frame mind that you were at the show, right? To kind of put yourself back in there. We all have kind of these highs when we come off of the different shows, for multitude of different reasons. So an opportunity to kind of put yourself back in that place can be very helpful. It can also because and the importance to that is because if you start getting a few no's in a row, that confidence can just get sucked
Tank.
out of you. I mean, depending upon your personality, is a large portion of it. But that I have a hard time. I have a hard time sliding that paper across the table when I know the person.
Mm.
And I think that that's another piece that, kind of get weighs into that. So it's almost like I feel bad doing that, but when I get to somebody that comes from a different part, I'm like, yeah. And I'll say this also, the power of no, right? Like if you put yourself in a position where you can say no, or where, if they come back and go, that's too high, and you go, all right, have a great day. We'll see you next time. Like when I was talking about the 2024 to 2025, I knew in the fall of 2025 that even if I had to adjust my prices a little bit, I was going to get booked. So I had nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
If they said no, it's like, okay, see ya. Have a good time.
Hmm.
That power of no can really give you a lot of confidence as well.
Definitely can take pressure off. Uh,
Oh
for
man, yeah.
again, and for those who are maybe new to watching, Dan is he has a teaching job and he DJs. Cubbie is basically between trivia and DJ or weddings. That's his world. So yes, he doesn't get up before noon, but that's another story for another day. And then myself, I've got numerous little things. So DJ has really become kind of like a third, maybe, or even a fourth type of job for me. So it's become a fairly part-time thing. Um, and that plays into this discussion a little bit also is the whole thing of where we're generating our money and where that's coming from, what has to pay the bills, and that's something we'll get into a little bit later. um, Price structure, Dan, you threw that out also.
Mhm.
You've thrown out some pretty good things. I've got notes across the across the bottom of my screen. um, I
You didn't
want
know
to.
that virus I put on your computer to let me see what's there, right?
Yeah, I
Did you?
know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, you don't get. Actually, I could have put it in the chat, and then you guys would have been able to see it. That would have made more sense, wouldn't it? Huh? Maybe that's why those things are there. That would be too much. That would make too much sense. Um,
Absolutely.
Guys, let's for those who just take a couple of minutes. And Dan, you were talking about how that could change your overall income. You were thinking about redoing that. So I'm going to start with Cubbie, and he can kind of lay out his price structure and how he's selling, because I think you're going to be sharing a couple of different thoughts on that. Because I think Cubbie, you've been pretty consistent with how you've structured the pricing within, or the what you sell within your company. So go over that a little bit, please.
I basically have two packages. One for the couple that gets married in a church and just needs like a 5 hour reception, don't need ceremony sound. And then I have an unlimited package that includes ceremony sound and the whole nine works. Easy peasy. If you're getting married at church, this is what it is. It's 5 hours. If you want additional hours, it's X amount of dollars. If you're doing ceremonies, you're doing everything at the same venue, ceremony sound, reception, all in one place, then this is what this includes as one bundle, one package, and that's it. I don't want to. I want to burden them with add-ons. I don't want to burden them with, oh, you need this, and then the financial surprise at the end, like they didn't realize that they needed to add this, or this to get to their final day. I explain it to them like that at the very end of the process. It's kind of like when you go to McDonald's and you get the number one. It includes a Big Mac, the fries, and the drink, and it's all one price. And this is what we did. We bundled it. We discounted it. Said this is everything you need for your day out the door. This is it. And then the other one's the church people. And this is what you need, 5 hours, you need additional hour, cool. And that's the way it works. It's
Hmm.
very I try to keep it as very simplistic as I can.
And that's worked for you. You've had that process for a number of years.
Yes.
Dan, you were talking about you're kind of maybe tweaking your price structure.
So I've been wanting to go to something like the all inclusive that Cubby has, or Rachel Lynch does something very similar. Only if you do photo booth with hers, then there's an added charge for the photo booth, but anything else is like an all inclusive type of
Yeah.
thing. And I think Cubby, that's the same way with you, because a lot of times, especially if you have another person involved, like that's a different piece, and I get that. I do very similar to like Cubby, right? Like if you're getting married in the church and you don't need me for that aspect of it, it's 4 hours and then each additional hour, and that gives you DJ and that gives you dance floor lighting, um, and that's it. All the MC stuff and all those pieces are included, but we all, I think, include those. Um, and then if you're getting married on site, 5 hours, and then each additional hour, it includes the ceremony setup. Um, that's been my two directions that I've gone, and then everything else is available as an add-on. And the way that I tell the clients, or the way that I use this with the clients is, because they'll ask, what packages do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And I've often said to them, I'm like, you know what? This is my package. It's a base, and then everything else is available as an add-on, because I only want you to have the things that you want. I don't want you to have to take some element to the wedding because it's part of a package, but you don't really want it there. So rather than that, let's just have the things that are important to you. And I spell out then what are the things I have available. I switched to that versus packages because I dropped a couple of the upsells that I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have the magic 3 packages.
Mm.
I had two, I had two good packages, but I didn't really have the magic 3. So I was like, well, let me just go to add-ons. But I've been kind of wanting to get to that all inclusive, because I have some venues that I think would look really good if I had some uplighting,
Sure.
if I had a monogram that was thrown in, and I think some of the couples would take me up on that. The problem, and what's kind of held me back just a little bit, is I have some venues that wouldn't look good, and I don't want a client to just take the uplighting because, well, it's included, and it not be conducive to the party.
To the
And
situation. Yep.
and I realize you're like, oh well, you gotta try and convince them that you're the expert, and it wouldn't look good here. But then to me, and this is where that lack of confidence to that selling aspect comes into play of, well, they're just gonna think I don't want to bring it,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm trying to cheapen out for the day or whatever's the case.
Right.
And again, that's because I haven't sold like that. I haven't talked and helped them buy like that. So it's a different situation. What do you
I think
do,
with
John?
Um, this is an area in which, of course, I've been all over the board over the number of years as trying different things. We've gone a la carte, where basically they could go and click, and then we went to Happy Meals for a while, or went with the number 5. You get that. Um, in the last probably 10 years, I've had 4 packages. Basically, the really high end one, the really the one that covered the basics for the day for those weddings that wanted to just have me come in and basically show up and play, and then 2 in the middle that were the ones that would sell most of the time, and it's actually worked surprisingly well. Yes, I have another page that breaks down all the different things that we can do, that they can look at it and say, oh wow, I didn't know you had uplights. Can we add the uplights to this package? And that discussion doesn't happen as much as I thought it was going to. So they've worked pretty well that way. Um, I'm going to probably change it just from the standpoint is that as the summer's gone on, that I've found out that me doing the microphone, Michael doing the DJ, and Nicholas doing the lighting, the 3 of us, so 3 on site, actually puts on a heck of a good show. And we can do some pretty neat things with the 3 of us. So now I'm looking at next year is that, maybe instead of, trying to sell 2 shows, Michael and Nicholas go one way and I go the other direction type of thing, that maybe I just need to go down to, the show up and play for those times when it's a local one and they just need me to pop in. And then when we're doing the others, it's the big one. Not the biggest one, but like our step 3, and just having the 2 options available with that. I'm not exactly sure on that, and this is the time of the year when I really dig into that and evaluate, because we've gone through enough weddings for the season that you can start to judge what's flying, what's not, what is showing interest for next year, what's not, and we still have enough time before the end of the season that if we're going to say, oh, let's go, we're going to be doing just selling this big show all of next year. Well, if I need to get some different promotional pictures or something of this bigger show in action, we could take it out to a fall wedding yet and still be able to utilize that. So that's what I've done, and that's where my thought process is for moving forward into that. There's a couple of comments, a couple of decent comments that are coming in here, so we'll have to get back to that.
I'm gonna pick up on Jay's here for just a
Oh yeah,
second while
please.
you're
If you
while you're
get,
getting out that
haven't had a
next
chance to read
piece.
it. Thank you.
So Jay, for those of you that haven't seen it, or you're just like listening and not reading, obviously, he says in our area, so many people just pick our lowest package. So I keep knocking off the lowest package until our lowest is our middle package, and I'm happy to work for that. My suggestion to you immediately would be your lowest package should be the lowest that you're willing to go out for, the lowest that you're willing to be happy about doing that event for. And if it's not, why is it not there? Right? Because that, in my viewpoint, like that's what's going to help you, right? That's what's going to make you feel good about going out that day. This, however, I will say this is kind of where Cubbie's option maybe becomes even a better one for you, because if you only really have the one price for the scenario that they have, then it doesn't matter if it's the first Saturday in September or if it's the first the last Saturday in October, you're getting the same price. And you're going to get that no matter what. So I would either, if you're going to stick with the package idea, I would make your bottom price be the one that you're going to be happy about, because that's also going to give you confidence in selling it, of being like, I'm getting this. This is good. This is a good price.
And that's really where that show up and play one, that's what that became. It was the idea that that it's a slimmed down gear experience. So there isn't the 2 hours of setup type of a situation. It's the show up and play. And where, for myself, I like being done at 10 o'clock at night. So my base package, the lowest package, we'll call it, using Jay's terminology there, is done at 10 o'clock. So if I'm going to be doing that level of show, my lowest package, and I go till midnight, well, all of a sudden I'm getting back up into the pricing of the step 2 package. But the way I came up with that number is basically, this is what it's going to take for me to go out on a Saturday and be happy with myself. Because I could go out for $500 on a Saturday and I would hate myself, pretty much. That's just the way, especially if it goes till midnight, and it'd be like, I could be home sleeping and not here making, that's me. For some folks, they're just excited and that's great for you. But I'm past that point. I'm 25 years past that point, if not 30 years past that point. But that, again, I found that point of where, if I can get it local, and if it can be done at 10 o'clock at night, I can be home before, and I can literally be in bed before 11 o'clock. There's some value to me for that. And that's why I can offer the package that I do. And for some people, they start there and they're like, yeah, this is okay. That sounds great. And then when we start and talk a week later to see where they're at, and they're like, yeah, we decided we wanted to go over here because we wanted to go till midnight, or we wanted to add, we wanted to have more, wanted lighting, as an example, because I don't do lighting with my base show. And that works. Because we did some picnics where we were done at 8 o'clock at night, and they booked that or not a picnic, weddings outside, where it was basically like a picnic, and they were done early, and I was really happy with that one. Like, yay. Okay. So guys, I want to kind of spend a little bit of and Cubbie, you kind of started talking about this, but looking at for 2025, and Dan, you also mentioned a little bit, changing your rates for 2025, yes or no, and what was kind of your thought process of why you're going to or not going to as you go forward into 2025? And Cubbie, I'm going to come back to you first.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I would have to say, watching my sales trends, I know bookings, coming out of COVID, it was hot. I mean, we all talked about how hot it was, and now I think they're cooling off as far as booking so far out. I think they're a little bit more price shopping this year. So I am holding off current. Okay, so I've got the higher price and I got the lower price. And if it's a referral and it's a lay down, they got a mattress on their back, I'm taking it.
Cubbie, wrong business. We're talking about DJing.
Oh, not mattresses. My bad.
Not mattresses. Not the other thing that you offer.
Not even that stuff.
If it, like as we talked about earlier, if it's a lay down, they saw it, I did their sister's wedding, I'm going to the higher price. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy, right? If it's a referral from a venue and they've read my reviews and I got to sell a little bit more, I'm like you guys. I'm like, oh, this is my price, and I cringe sometimes. Like, okay, they're gonna take it, not take it. I might err on, and if it's another DJ, I might err on the side of caution because I know they want to work. My guys want to work. I got five
Yeah.
guys I got to feed. And so, and they're happy with where price point is now. Um, and so it's for me, it's situational.
Mm-hmm.
As I talk to them, as I get a feel for them, as and I just don't pitch all the time. I like to talk to them and find out what other receptions they've been to. Have they talked to other DJs? What they find out? What they like about them? What they not like about them? Oh, you were at a wedding last weekend. Well, what they do that you liked? And then I avoid those situations that they don't like. And then, like I said, just try to build their confidence. And I guess I really went around the question. If it's a straight referral, boom, I'm selling them at the higher price. If it's a referral from the venue, I have no personal connection with them. They'll probably get the lower price. But again, it's a $200 switch, so it's not going to make or break me either way.
You mentioned situational, Dan. I'll get back to you, but I want you to talk about situational a little bit when it comes to. Obviously, you've got, if you're booked out, you know that you can sell your team at that little bit lower dollar, and there's obviously a level of confidence that, because you've sold them for $5,000 before, and you can sell them for $5,000 again. But there's a situational thing, and specifically the calendar situational thing. Do you have different rates that, as you look at the calendar and say, "Oh wow, this is a weekend that I wouldn't have booked anything anyway, or most likely ever," or is it that your calendar stays pretty consistent, so you don't have to be adjusting that way or
I don't
feeling that?
just yeah, I don't just seasonal adjust. I don't seasonal
Okay.
adjust. It's a straight across the board, whether it's January, February, March. Same all the way across the board. And even Friday weddings, people are like, do you give me a discount for Friday? I'm like, I'm gonna work just as hard on Friday that I am on your Saturday wedding. And I stay the same. They seem to respect that.
Yeah, for sure. I could definitely see that. Dan,
Yeah.
your thoughts for 2025? Where are you? You mentioned earlier that you were knowing that you were going to do something. Um, what where are you at as far as, did you raise, did you lower, did you stay, and what were your deciding factors?
So I raised in 2024. I raised $100 on all my base packages, and that was kind of where I decided to go, and I kind of made that decision after I'd already sold a little bit of 2024. So there's some that were in my old rate, some that are in my new rate this year. And when I was looking to next year, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna stay consistent. I'm just gonna stay at that same price. I really wasn't gonna make the change. But then again, I keep toying around the idea. Do I go to the all-inclusive package? Do I do an increase? Because one of the other things that I've noticed is I really haven't adjusted much for my ceremony, and I put a lot into my ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've talked about this before. Like this is not a speaker on a stick with a you know cheap wireless mic attached to it, and that's it. And I'm Bluetoothing in. Like I know people that do that. I'm sorry, I do a lot more for my ceremonies than that, and I haven't really felt like I'm doing what I need to kind of compensate for that. So I've thought about even just like, okay, maybe I keep the reception package the same, but the ceremony aspect causes the big bump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think because I haven't really narrowed that down of what I'm going to do, I'm just kind of doing status quo
Okay.
at this point. Also, right, like again, we hear it everywhere, right? Like, money's going up, money's going up, money's going up. And we see, you've noticed that, I would assume you probably noticed a lot of your wedding crowds have come down in size. So I'm like, you know what? If I stay at that same price, because for the most part, my costs haven't gone up with the exception of my gas prices to get to my venue. My music subscription's been staying the same. All that kind of stuff is pretty much consistent. Um, I don't necessarily have a reason that I need to suddenly increase. And so that status quo now I become that better deal, to them, because everything else went up. And assuming that they knew before that my prices were whatever they were, that's fine. Or, again, if it came from such and such as a wedding like that, I'm pretty close to what that was. So I haven't fully decided what I'm doing. And because I haven't fully decided, I don't have a plan, and I'm just going to keep going with, we'll say, the latter half of 24.
Sure.
And and I got to throw in, we're all like Dan, he's the highest in his market. We're the highest in our markets. We're making great money. We do not have a cost of goods like food people do and floral and all this other stuff that could be adjusting. We talk about buying equipment. You buy once, you cry once, right? So it is paid for, and music subscriptions or insurance. We don't have a lot of overhead. So what we're making is really gravy on, you know what I'm saying? It's just talent and what you're willing to leave your house for. So, I mean, some of the variables would be an out of town wedding with mileage. That got me one year when gas shot up.
Mm-hmm.
I shot mileage once, and the next year gas tripled or whatever. And I'm like, shit, I didn't make it on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the only variable we that I have honestly is mileage. I've owned all my equipment for several years. I may replace it, but I got the room to do so. But we don't have a cost of goods like a florist or like a caterer or like an alcohol. Um, we just have our talent and our music costs, and that's it, man. And so we're making a lot, really good money. I feel I am. I'm not a 9.95 DJ. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can see there's a lot of room for PGGs if they're 14.95, 17.95. Yeah, make those moves, make those money moves.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're up there, um, our cost of goods is we don't have any.
Well, you do have some, but
We don't have it. We don't have the same type of fluctuating.
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, exactly. Let's spend a few minutes talking here, guys, as we look into going in the future, 25, 26, beyond. Uh, the economic situation that we are potentially getting into, as we've all been around long enough to know that there's an ebb and a flow when it comes to the economy. There's the good times and there's times where things get tightened up, and this is a cycle that happens within the US economy. It's happened for years. It doesn't matter who's in office. To some extent, it's going to happen. It's just the way it is. How does economic change, has that affected? And Dan, you probably haven't been in this, maybe long enough to really. I don't. Yeah, you were in there when 2008. We rolled through 2008. So, but yeah, how has economic change affected what your thought process are when it comes to setting your prices, or even dealing and offering in the business?
Hate to say this, it doesn't for
Mm-hmm.
me. I don't let those thoughts get into my head, other than what I just kind of mentioned like earlier, where I'm like, okay, things are increasing. Maybe I just hold still for a little bit. Um, Somebody earlier, Rook, I think it was, had mentioned, okay, suddenly, like, if things start coming down, am I going to lower my prices? No, because I don't. Because for me, I'm not increasing my prices because everything else increased, right? So I'm not basing, well, everything else went up, so I'm going to go up. And everything else is coming down, so I'm going to come down. No, like, my increases went because I have more experience, because I now have another, thing to bring to the table, not gear wise, but some other talent of what I'm doing that sets me apart, that makes me the better option. And I've invested my time to learn how to do that better. I'm worth more. So when the prices change, I'm still hanging there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that might mean, I hang there for a longer time than I would have before. Maybe instead of every year, every 6 months or a year, I'm increasing price. Maybe it's, every year and a half, I decide to make that increase. Um, or I'm not making a $500 jump. I'm making a, $100 jump, whatever might be the case. So there might be some alterations to that, but I'm not going back the other way. And that's about the extent of how I would let that impact me.
Mm-hmm. Cubbie, how does your local economy, does that affect what you do?
No, I'm glad Dan started because I was going to say the same thing he did. I'm just going to stay where it is and do what we do and provide value and service and great parties, and Once if you tell them all that you do and explain to them all they do, they'll see your value regardless of what your price is. Be the resource.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think our follow-up show, John, should be how we get that conversation to come out, though.
Which one? As far as
Well,
which
so
specific conversation?
so Cubbie's point of like explaining what we do and all the things that we do, and one of the things that I know a lot of people have struggled with, and this is some of some of the conversations is, couples are reaching out to us, and it might not be the first thing they ask is how much you charge, but it's like one of the first couple things that they
Right.
ask.
Yep.
And even if you try and bounce around to try and get some information from them, they're not really wanting to have much of a conversation until you give them some sort of a ballpark. And as soon as you do that, a lot of people are getting ghosted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know my confidence goes up when I can have a conversation, whether it's via email, via text, or via the phone. If they start talking with me about the things that are important to them, this is a slam dunk. I'm getting the event.
Yeah.
But it's those other ones where it's like it's like, so, you know, tell me, where are you thinking about having the ceremony? Where would the reception be? Ceremony by the pond, reception in the barn. That's the response. Like, can we be any faster with our type of answer? Um, and so trying to be able to pull those details out in such a way that will kind of encourage them to have that conversation, which will then encourage them to want to invest in you because you've invested in what's important to them. That's the conversation.
Wow, that's a lot of notes to type. I was hoping for like a 5-word answer, and you just
Well, we weren't doing it tonight, John.
well, no, but I'm making notes. Is what
Oh, okay.
a conversation on.
How do we get them on the phone?
I don't know because I don't want
Well,
them on the phone.
let's
I
talk
do.
about this, guys, on and come up with a so we can tighten it up a little bit. And we'll just do that in our chat afterwards because I
Okay.
think we need to kind of stew on that one a little bit. So I'm going to go a different direction than either of you, and I guess I've been doing this longer than both of you, so I can go yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
The and we're also let me preface this by we're in rural Minnesota, so much of I'm surrounded literally by soybean and cornfields, and our central Minnesota economy is really dictated on the how agriculture goes. When the farmers then went 25 years ago when the milk prices were high, farmers are putting money into things. When farmers are putting money into things, that means that our local business people are having to sell, or they're selling products and things and services, and houses are being built. There's more money in the area, and we could definitely see that. So when we came out of the kind of the later Bill Clinton years, and the economy had come back there into that, we were doing really quite well. And in the early 2000s, in those first years of the Bush his presidency, we were doing $2,000 shows, and we were doing them consistently and such because we had a higher agriculture. The bottom fell out of the agriculture community. Things tightened up tremendously, and then it was very, very difficult for us to book enough shows to keep our staff busy at that. And we were running a staff of, I think, at five DJs at the time, and all of our DJs were able to achieve that those $2,000 shows. So it became an adjustment, kind of like what Cubbie was referring to earlier. They want to stay busy, they want to do that, and they just need to have a show to book, and it just didn't work out for us. In time, through attrition and such, and just not having enough events, pretty much all of our staff moved on, and that was it. We went through another cycle of that in the coming through the 2008. We had a pretty solid year in the latter parts of the 2000s. Had a couple of decent years, and then the bottom fell out again on us. So then we went from having 20 type weddings. It fell down in the early teens. We were down again. It was just really difficult, and we've had these cycles. One thing that we see with the cycles is when things get tight in the rural area, for us in this area, I will see 10 DJs pop up. And now we're talking small towns where the 300, 500, 1,000 people in these small towns, and all of a sudden everyone's a DJ because they can make some extra money on the side, and they're doing that. Well, yes, they are not able to do things at the level I can do, and they don't have the experience and whatever. it doesn't in many cases matter, because the people who went out to the bar, they saw them and they're like, oh wow, you can do my wedding for $300. Yeah, you're going to do my wedding. And that happens. And the biggest frustration we've had, especially as we've gotten away from Yellow Page being the spot to find, is that we don't even get we're not on a board. They don't call us and them. They basically found that $300 person, and that's who they booked. I bought gear off DJs who so many times who have folded after, once the economy picked up again, and now they're they found a better job somewhere that they didn't have to work Saturday nights. They DJ for 2 or 3 years and are gone. That's been the cycle. Right now we're on the other end of the cycle here, where this year we've had a really good summer. Pricing hasn't, people haven't balked at pricing virtually at all. In many cases, they're like, okay, great. How do I put money? How do I get the retainer to you? It's been a good year that way. And I'm looking into 2025, and I think we're going to still have a pretty solid year in 2025. But I also, again, we're in a rural area, and our prices and a lot of our commodities have kind of taken a nosedive here in the last number, because we've got a bumper crop of corn. There's more corn and there's more soybeans. They've had a great year. Yay, rah, rah. But when everybody has a great year, that means that the prices are driven down. So there's going to be that lag, and we're going to have that. And that might mean in 2 or 3 years from now, 2026, that I might have a difficult time. I might not be able to sell 20 weddings in 2026. By the end of that's what we're doing this year. So does that mean that I need to, offer something cheaper? Do I need to change things? I don't know. And I have to figure that out. But from years of experience in the rural area, these are huge factors. We don't have, there is manufacturing and things that are in this area, but there isn't the huge tech areas where some of those things that when the rural areas, but the tech and these other things are doing well. We don't have that. So it's become basically as the farms go, even though there's fewer farmers, but some of these larger farmers are still employing 30, 40, 50 people now, because they're just huge operations. And when they are able to pay those people well and pay them overtime, and then they're building houses and they're doing this and doing that, all these things come together to run our rural areas and make those profitable. The years when they can't pay the overtime and they can't do that, those 40 people working that farm are now getting 2 speakers and a microphone, and they're out on a Saturday night, and they just will take some shows that we would have potentially been able to get if they wouldn't have been there. So from my perspective, I did change our prices. Generally, I put the 2025 price sheet together in May, and I will hand that out, or you send that out to 2025 inquiries, and then I get to a point about this time of the year. I will decide if I want to change it. Do I need to go up? Do I need to go down? Or is it going to stay the same? Generally, I kind of either, if I change the packages, it'll go up a little bit. But as far as if I add something and take something out of a package, it'll go up accordingly. And then I like to go up at least $100 just because of inflation and things, just to stay ahead of that. Then in the fall, this is the time to evaluate. Did I change it and go a direction I didn't like? I've changed my mind now, and I don't want to be adding bubbles to every one of my shows. I had blinky glow sticks so we're in this package, or this one. Maybe I don't want to do that anymore because it sucked, and I found out whatever. This is where we reevaluate and we go into 2025. Where this bites me in the butt is that if I had somebody who booked it and they like the blinky glow things, and then all of a sudden if I'm not offering it, and then I have to remember when I do their show, I have to take the blinky glow things. But that's just management and such, and just got to double check things. But as we sit right now, I'll probably be changing the pricing for 2025 and bumping it up just a little bit. But I'm really cautious and concerned about 2026, or where we're going to be, how that will pan out. If we will still have a strong rural economy, or if things will tighten up. And we're so far out, I can't make that prediction. I'll be figuring that out in April and May of next year, and try to figure out where we go. So,
John, something that I think that you mentioned that as you were saying that, and I know we're about out of time, but I think this is important for everybody to kind of pick up on it. When you are setting your prices, it shouldn't be a one and done type of idea. If you didn't pick up on that, he does it in May, has it ready to go in May, evaluates it, late summer and then reevaluates it again in October. Like that, you should be doing that. You should be tracking what you're doing with those packages or with those pricings, no matter what you do, up, down, sideways, doesn't matter, because that's going to give you that better insight to what you're doing, and it will also potentially give you the better confidence to what you're doing, right? Because if what you're doing, you may not realize over the course of a couple months how things moved forward, and so if you kind of like check it, oh, hey, that really went well, right? Now you can feel good about what you did.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Uh, the link, djntv.com/chill. I think Robin's put it up there a couple of times. And Howie has taken the summer off. Robin, maybe I didn't mention this in one of our past shows. So John and some of the other crew are kind of heading up the Monday nights now, but it's a DJ chat night. Go in there. They'll have a topic and they do recording for about 20 minutes or so. And then it's a hallway hangout. So djntv.com/chill. That's a Zoom room. And they'll be getting in there in just a few minutes to get that going tonight. And then tomorrow night is the Tuesday night music show, djntv.com/chill, where you can go in there and they will do talking music and such. Tonight they'll talk music a little bit too. It's part of obviously what we do. But tomorrow night's a night where Brian and Jay, they really dig into that. And John jumps in there and Eric and others. Got a good crew of people who know more about music way more than I do. And I thought I knew what I was talking about. You know, I know that one, but that's about it. So, anyway, Dan, take us home. We gotta go.
Well, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Hopefully, it gave you some things to think about with your pricing, whether it needs to be up, down, or again sideways, whatever might happen to be the case. But hopefully, it did help you paint things in the right picture. Have yourself a good one, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everybody.